All right, guys. So today we're going to be talking about these pre-spawn locations where they're staging up and stuff like that. So, as you can see, kind of behind me, we've got a good pre-spawn location. So they basically pulled the water down. It's down like probably 13 foot, so it's way down. But we've got chunk rock, we've got pea gravel, we've got secondary points. We've got all kinds of stuff. It's coming off a main lake point. This would be a perfect area for these fish to spawn. But instead of carrying you all around through the lake and show you all this stuff right here, what I want you to really pay attention to is on the banks and stuff that you're fishing when they bring this water level down. Pay attention to the stuff that's typically underwater. This is stuff you can mark on your graph and then come back and hit here in the spring, the summer, whatever, once the water levels come up and the fish are done spawning, basically. So pay attention to little stuff like that. And what we're going to do, we're going to jump over to my computer. I'm going to pull my stuff up like I did the last time. I'm going to pull up Navionics, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to look for in the areas you can follow to hopefully help you catch a lot more bass. So stay tuned. This is something you don't want to miss. All right, guys. So we're going to be going over these staging areas where the bass typically go before they spawn. Okay. So this is going to apply to the pre spawn. This is going to apply to the spawn and the post spawn. Okay. So just remember the fish that live on the main lake that migrate to the creeks, they typically travel a certain direction to get back up into these areas. And then you also have the fish on the main lake that live on the main lake, they spawn on the main lake, they die on the main lake, just like in the creeks. You have fish in the creeks that live in the creek, they die in the creek, and they spawn in the creek, okay? So just keep that in mind as we go through this video, and that applies to every single lake, river system, it doesn't matter. So we're going to be going over a few areas here. So first, let's start with their Highland Reservoir. This would be somewhere like this is specifically Lewis Smith Lake, but this applies to like Lake Lanier, Lake Murray, and stuff like that. Okay, your other blueback herring lakes, but now this will apply to other lakes also. This is not just specific to Highland Reservoirs. This works just about anywhere. So let's find us a spawning cove. So a real good area, in my opinion, would be like this area right here. Okay, so let's start right here. We're gonna break down this entire creek. Okay, so we've got a main lake point out here with a hump. Okay, so this particular area right here is going to go straight up on both sides, and then it's going to, flatten out, and then it's going to have a hump in the middle. Okay, this is going to be a main lake area for the winter time, for the summertime, and everything else. Now, with that being said, when you're paying attention to your chart, always remember on your boat, your tight contours, is a highway. That's all you got to picture it as. It's a simple highway. Okay, so the fish that live out here that are going to migrate to spawn, they're going to take this highway right here. These boat docks and all this stuff is simply just rest stops. Okay, anything that's along that contour, that highway, is simply just rest areas. Okay, so they're going to stop there and feed, they're going to stop there and stage and wait to spawn because they may move up, they may shoot across right here and then go up in here and get back up in this little pocket and spawn right here, or they could spawn right here. I mean, there's multiple things that they can do, but they're going to stage in these areas along this contour. They're going to stage in areas like this right here off this secondary point. This would be a secondary point. And they're going to stage on areas like this secondary point that comes way out here. But mainly they're just simply following this highway right here around the bend. They're going to go across just like this. Here's another long secondary point. Okay. And a hump, or well, this right here would actually be like a yeah, this is a hump. Okay, so it goes from 45, 50, and then up to 54 foot. So this would be a hump. This hump right here would be a great area for the fish that are staged in this bend where the creek channel. This is your creek channel. Okay, where your creek channel comes around and it cuts off on the edge right here. These fish that are staged up feeding could stage up and feed right here, but as soon as the weather turns bad, they could push down on top of that hump right there and suspend. Now, this is typically where those hard, inactive fish are going to be. Those guys right there, they're catchable, but you may not want to put that much time into catching them. You know what I'm saying? So, me personally, I'm a power fisherman, so I'm going to be focused on the ones that want to feed. I'm going to hit this area. I'll have this whole creek finished in about 30 minutes. That's fishing the main areas where I think the fish are going to be. Okay. Um, so let's say we got fish that's going to spawn right here that come from the main lake. So they're going to travel all the way around through here, right here where my mouse is going. They're going to come up, come around, and get back up in here to spawn. Okay, it's that simple. They're following the creek channel where the contours are. The areas that you need to focus on is simply just like your main lake. Okay, so treat the creek as if it's the main lake. That's the simplest way I can put it. So I basically I've got my map moved over right here, and now I act like that is the lake. So I'm gonna hit this channel bend right here. This is a good area that I'm gonna focus on. Now I'm gonna hit this stuff leading down. Okay, in case there's any late fish coming off the point. Matter of fact, like we did today, I'm gonna hit this main lake point, but I'm not gonna spend more than 5 minutes on it. Okay, 5, 10 casts at the most, and I'm done burning down this bank. Okay. And when I say burning down the bank, I'm typically running that rage swimmer. I'm running spinner baits. I'm running jerk baits. I'm running stuff that moves to find the fish that are very active. Okay. Or anything that can chase my bait. If it chases my bait and I see the fish, then hey, I know there's fish in that area. Okay. So then I know that, hey, I need to focus on this little particular area right here. So if I'm cruising right through here and then I have a fish follow right here, then I'm going to say, okay, so that's, not even a quarter of a way into the creek. So I need to really pay attention to the quarter area of this creek. So I would slow down, make 3 or 4 extra casts in this little area right here just to check it off. If I don't get bit, I'm burning back down through here. And when I say burning, you're just going to be moving your bait pretty quickly. You're moving baits, okay? Because I'm looking for a bite or a follow. That's going to help me put a piece of the puzzle together. So I'm going to hit these secondary points right here until I get into these little spawning areas. And then right now in my area, they're not spawning. So I'm not going to go all the way back up into these coves, but I'm going to go to about the 3/4 mark. So this right here is exactly where I'm going to stop. Okay. And here's one of the big things I get asked a lot too. What is the ideal water temperature for these fish to spawn and so on and so forth? There's not an ideal temperature, okay? I mean, obviously the water can't be super cold, but it's not going to be super warm either, okay? The main thing you need to understand is the moon phase, okay? And that would be a whole different subject. There's plenty of information on Google or, whatever search engine you use to figure out what these bass do on the moon phases. Okay, that controls what the bass do, not necessarily the water temperature. The water temperature isn't irrelevant, but it's not a big indicator. Okay, it's 65 degrees, these fish are back there spawning. It just doesn't work like that. Okay, so they typically do like like deer do and stuff. I mean, it's all based on the moon phase. It's all part of nature. So this is what I would focus on a highland reservoir is areas like this. Um, let's just go ahead and do one more creek. I'll actually go to the creek where I was in the video. So right here is the little creek where I was at in the video. Okay, so typically this is where the bass live during the summer, during the winter. You'll catch them on this entire point, all the way out here to 65, 70 foot deep. Okay, before it drops off into the 100+ water. Okay, and these fish right here, they're going to follow these contours, okay? Up in here. A lot of times these fish will shoot across and use these boat docks and travel all along down through here. They'll spawn in these little pockets and stuff when they get ready to spawn, and then, get back up in these areas. Uh, let's see here. Let me find that other area real quick for y'all. Where was that? Yeah, it was right here, right here. All right, so where y'all saw me catch that largemouth, right? We was right here at this boat dock. If you look, this right here is the creek channel. Okay. Uh yeah, this is the right creek. Okay. Just double checking. But either way, these fish, there was multiple fish with that largemouth, okay, that I ended up catching. Now the multiple fish were in this area right here. There was a little bit of grass, there was a lot of pea gravel and stuff, and it's clay. Okay, these fish were just staged right out here in the open. They wasn't suspended. They were close to the bottom, but they were out here in the open. You're typically going to be throwing, at this angle, and your boat's going to be out here. What I want you to pay attention to this time of year, especially when it's super windy and stuff, is the um centers of your creeks and stuff, because these fish are going to push down and get into the center of the creek channel, what we call the ditch. Okay, they're going to get into the ditch of that creek channel, and they're going to suspend, or they're going to be flat on bottom when they're lethargic. The only reason that fish bit my bait was because I put that bait right in front of its face. Okay, it didn't chase it down or anything like that. I cruised right in front of it, and I ended up catching the fish. So pay attention to that and your little creek channels and stuff like that you're fishing. So let's move to a river system here. So Bankhead Lake, okay? So this is the Warrior River, okay? Um so let me go to an area that I'm familiar with here. Yeah, right here. Okay. So typically, sorry, you can probably hear my kid in the background back here having a good time. But either way, this is typically where we launch at on Warrior River, and you would follow this creek channel, okay, all the way out until you get to the main river. So let's say you're on the main river system, okay. I'm gonna go up north, okay. I prefer on a river system. I try not to get into the big bodied part of the river system, just because I like to be able to narrow my I don't know, my catch window down. I'm not a huge river fisherman, okay? I understand how it works and stuff. I'm just not a huge fisherman, or a huge river fisherman. Just I've had some bad experiences on on rivers, safety stuff. So, but either way, this river right here, Warrior River. Let's get into this area. So I'm gonna go up here. Okay, so typically during the winter and in the summer, this is an area that I typically like to fish. This is a steam plant. There's all kinds of riprap and trees and stuff like that in the water right here up against this bank. We got a steep slope that drops off into the channel. It's 30, 35 foot deep. Now, where would these fish go? If I tell you to look at these map, I mean, where would you think these fish would go to spawn? If you said this area right here, you are correct. And what they're going to do is they're going to cruise right down this highway, your contour, and they're going to cruise along this side over here, get back up in these areas and spawn. They're going to get up in this little pocket and spawn. The fish that come from this direction, they're going to shoot straight across, go up in this area and spawn. When they're inactive, they're going to be right here where this little fish symbol is, and just hang out right there in that little ditch type flat area. Okay. Um, and sometimes they will push out and go right into the channel and suspend. Okay. So be aware of that. Now, let me find another little area here. All right, so this right here would be a perfect example, okay? So during the spring or during the summer and the winter, you're going to have fish that live in this area right here, okay, along this river system. And they're going to get behind these docks and stuff like that to catch their bait as the current rolls. So, with that being said, these fish will typically push up in here. They're going to come up in this area and spawn. So, the areas you want to focus on is, the fish are coming from this direction. So, more than likely, they're going to hang on this side right here. Okay. So, this right here would be a good starting area for a power fisherman. You can hit that. You can hit this, and these are high percentage areas. These are what we call high percentage areas. So you have a higher percentage to catch a fish off that dock than you do just right down this little stretch. Doesn't mean you're not going to catch one off that stretch, but if I'm a tournament fisherman and I'm practicing, I'm going to hit the high percentage areas to save as much time as I can during practice or during the tournament. This right here could be a good little spawning area. It just depends on the conditions. There may be a little creek that runs in the back right here that we're not aware of. If the little creek runs in, uh, then it washed their eggs out and they're not going to spawn there, like I talked about earlier. But either way, the travel along this area, this little area right here would be a place to check out. Spend a little bit of time, make 8 or 9 casts, see if you get bit. Move up in here, this little area right here off this little dock, and then they're going to spawn back here. So fishing along this area, if there's any cover, along this little area, if there's any cover, all the way up to about that 3/4 mark, like where this dock is, or actually where this split is, right here would be a good area to stop. If they're not in full blown spawn yet. So it's the same concept on this river as it was on Smith Lake or your Highland Reservoirs or your natural lakes or anything like that. So it's not a very, very complicated thing. We just tend to overcomplicate things. um, I think we all do. So let's talk about this little lake right here. So this is a real small lake. This may look similar to what you got wherever you live. So let's see here. Where do we want to start at? Let's let's start right here, okay? Because all this is real shallow, okay? So this is real shallow. So you may, yeah, this would be similar to like a little natural lake, okay? So like the biggest depth, I think it's like 34 foot on this end. So what would we want to look for right here? We've got a lot of steep contour lines. So what will we do? Well, we've got a channel right here with a real steep bend around through here. So typically during your summer months, those fish could live on this channel bend right here, moving up and down this channel bend to feed. Same on this side right here, okay? We've got humps. We've got all this uh, contour going on right here where they can live in that deeper water, okay? The fish that are living right here can push up, follow their highway, and go back up in this area right here, okay? All the way to the back. I would stop about right here. There's nothing showing me on this chart that there's any boat docks or anything like that. So what I would do is I would get in that area and I would see if there's any kind of laydowns or anything like that that you could fish those high percentage areas and see if there's any fish that's staging up on that stuff. And then you're going to have fish also move all the way back up in here, and it's the same concept. So we got a secondary point here that we can hit. We've got this wide channel bend that we could hit. The fish that are on this side, they're just going to move up this way, okay, and hit that secondary point, and then they're going to move back up this way to spawn, okay? And when the post spawn's going on, it's the same concept. They're just going to move from right here back down the same areas, and they're going to stage in the same areas to recover from the spawn. So that's definitely something you need to keep in mind. So either way, guys, I hope this video helps you. If it does, make sure to drop down below, comment, let me know if you have any questions. But just remember, your contours are your highways, so follow your contours. Let's go up here so I can give you a better little in-depth. Okay, so like this right here where it bends right here, this is your highway, okay? Your steep contours, that is going to be the road that they're traveling on, okay? This is where they're going to go up, or what they're going to follow to go back to their spawning areas, okay? So be aware of that. Hit your secondary points, your high percentage areas, you're going to have a lot more success. Anything that has cover, anywhere that they could go, like if they're staging up on this secondary point right here, see this hump? What they're going to do, they're going to feed right here, and then they're going to push out there on that hump and suspend when they're inactive. So when they're inactive, even though they're not catchable fish, it lets you know that there is fish in that area. So if I'm there at 6 a.m. and they're suspended on that area, I know I can come back at a later point of the day and see if they're suspended on that same area. If they're not, they're typically going to push up on that point or on that channel bend or something like that. So they're not going to travel real far. So like if you're on some right here one day, let's say you're on them today. Okay, by Tuesday, you come back and you don't see them. Typically, they're either going to suspend right here or they just may simply move down here to this point or to this point, or they could move further on down here and be in a pocket. I mean, they're going to be in this general area within a few days. So as long as you stay on top of that, you can follow the fish in, you can follow the fish out. Okay. The baits that I would recommend is the same typical baits that I've been recommending since winter. Your swim baits, your jerk baits, your shaky heads, anything natural like that. Your fish are typically going to be eating crawfish, blueback herring. If you're in a blueback herring lake, they're going to be eating your threadfin, gizzard chads, whatever kind of forage that they have. in your particular lake. So if you don't know exactly what they're eating, you may want to look it up on the internet or pay attention when you catch the fish and see if they have it in their mouth. If they have it in their mouth, you can take it out of their mouth and then match it up perfectly. Typically, the size is the most important thing. The color comes second. So I want to get the size perfect and then I'll worry about the color. Okay. So something natural if the lake's clear, something, uh, dark if the lake's dark, or anything like that. They all camouflage to their environment. Your predators are going to try to camouflage to their environment so they can ambush the prey. The prey is going to try to camouflage to their environment so the prey doesn't eat them. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But either way, guys, I hope the video helps you. If it does, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.